Hi guys! Welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new legal advice content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first one is titled, Sold Land Around My House to a Developer Years Ago. Homeowner Association formed and being forced to join it and liens on my property, Nebraska. So long story short, today has been an absolute crap show. I can't even comprehend where to start. So my parents owned about 30 acres of land in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, on the outskirts of town. My parents built their house in the late 80s, and that's where I've lived my whole life. My parents passed away, and I inherited the property, and it's all my land or was my land. Back in 2005, this developer bought up a bunch of neighboring land and wanted to buy land. I told him I was willing to sell 10 acres, furthest from the house the adjoining section to his neighborhood. He asked for 20 acres, and I told him that the second 10 acres would be 3x the price, and he agreed. And we signed the paperwork, and he bought the land, and I was paid for it. End of story, or so I thought. The lands sat empty for over a decade since it took a while for him to sell the plots of land he made to home buyers, and his company built houses. From about 2005 to 2012, the land sat empty, and I didn't mind. I still mowed the grass and whatnot to keep it tidy, but never tried to take the land over or anything. By fall of last year, he had finished the entire area, and there's about 200 homes in that neighborhood. Because of the neighborhood, my 10 acres is now worth about 1,020x what it was originally worth, and the homeowner association knows that. Since the September of 2017, I've had a bunch of angry letters and citations left on my property and in my mailbox. Some of them include having a barn larger than 7x 7 feet. I have a 20x 40 barn. Having abandoned vehicles on my property. It's a project car shell that I'm working on. I have the actual chassis in the barn, but it needs quite a bit of work. I bought an old rusted body, and it sits outside and will continue to do so until I can deal with it. Having a non-conforming mailbox. Still no idea WTF this is. Having the improper roof tiles. Again, no idea. I ignored them and told the homeowner association members that I'm not part of their neighborhood and therefore have no reason to follow their bullcrap rules. The homeowner association says since my property values have gone up, I owe back dues from the date I sold my land before there was even a single house built, and have to correct everything on the list. The back dues are current $10,200, but they state that if I don't pay by December 31st, 2017, I will be charged interest that has accrued. Again, no idea where they are getting the interest from, but I do believe their homeowner association fees are around $750 a year. It'll cost me about $15,000, $20,000 to fix my house. I think it's absolute bullcrap that they can even make me try to do so. 1. I went through all the documents I signed, and not a single document from the developer makes any mention of a homeowner association or my association with it. 2. I have no idea why the homeowner association is coming after me. I live almost half a mile away from the nearest house that belongs to the neighborhood. The entire neighborhood has its own little custom street signs and lamps. I don't have any of that, so how can they say I'm part of the homeowner association? They said to either pay up or they will put a lien on my property and take it over. From what I understand, if I pay the $10,000, doesn't that mean I'm admitting to guilt and be forced into the homeowner association? Update. So just had an hour-long discussion with the lawyer, and he went through all the documents. He asked if I was sure that was every document, and I told him it was, and it was. When I sold all the documents, I put them all in the same folder along with my taxes. He says that there is no chance I'm in the homeowner association, since I didn't sign anything. He let me know that he'd be glad to send them a cease and desist letter to the homeowner association. I brought up adverse possession, and he suggested I don't pursue it since I want them to leave me alone rather than instigate anything bigger. So for now, he said to not pay anyone or sign anything. He'll mail out the cease and desist letter today, and he says if the homeowner association tries contacting me, I should just tell him to contact him instead. So I think I'm in the clear for now. Continued. So I met with a real estate attorney that was referred to me by a Redditor on here and did the title search, and I'm in the process of trying to find the old developer's master plans. So far, here's what's been dug up. I sold my land to developer 8. He owned the land for about 2 years and then filed bankruptcy and lost the land to the bank. That's when the maintenance of the land went to crap and I was mowing it and taking care of it, cause the bank didn't care. Bank sold it to developer B, and that is the person that built the current neighborhood. We got in touch with developer B, and he said he was no longer part of the neighborhood, and in fact, the homeowner association is in charge of the entire area. His company just owned the lots and they sold built on them for the families, and they have zero say anymore. I asked him about the master plans and if he thought he owned my remaining 10 acres, and he said absolutely not. The entire neighborhood sits on old land, plus the 20 acres that were purchased from him. So, he was helpful, and it was clear he had no wrongdoing. I spoke to the lawyer to see if we could file an adverse possession on the land. I maintained, but he said it would be a waste of time and money. But I was just going to do it to spite the homeowner association. The title search and everything came up clean. It showed my parents as the previous owners and then me. So, no way could they have owned my land. The records go way back, and there is a clear chain of ownership, as my lawyer put it, and it's incontestable. We sent a homeowner association a cease and desist letter as well to stop contacting me unless they have actual signed documents that show I was part of a homeowner association. They never got back to me. I was out of town and came back last night to my mailbox missing. It was cut clear off the post with a chainsaw wooden post with a metal mailbox on top. I told my lawyer this, and he says that it is a big deal and that us would send the person to jail. I repurchased an identical mailbox and set up cameras all over the property. If they tried again, I'll have them on tape. But the biggest thing we uncovered was that we found out what they are planning. Turns out that the homeowner association wants to put in another community playground and a pool clubhouse, and they need land. They can't expand in any other direction since they're almost on the end of a highway on one side and the other sides are zoned for agriculture. They decided they'd try to take over my land. They have yet to also file a lien on my property, so I'm guessing they were trying to force me into the homeowner association to make them sell my land below market value. Either way, they showed their hand and now I'm on alert. We filed a complaint with the police regarding the stolen mailbox, and we have a paper trail for that now. It's just a waiting game to see what they do next, I guess. Should I send them a letter saying I know their plan, and there is no way they can get my land? They have their monthly meeting every second Tuesday of the month, so it's in a few days and I'm sure I'll be the topic of discussion. Should I go to it? The next one is titled, City Threatening a Lawsuit to Get Me to Take Down a Website Criticizing Town Odors, Iowa. About 4 years ago, a large rendering plant purchased a factory in our small town in Iowa that has been causing all kinds of terrible odors ever since. We're talking rotten blood, dead animal, old beer fumes hanging in the air multiple days of the week for years. The smells are particularly nasty on warm and humid summer days. After living directly across the street from the plant, I decided to use my skills as a developer to create a website criticizing the government of our town and the city council specifically for taking no action and letting the factory pollute our town. At the bottom of the website in the footer, I left a blurb that says Town is still being polluted as of current date. After a couple years of the site being up with little attention, I get a sudden spike of traffic, around 2K visitors over a few days, and we finally start hearing from the city that they'll be taking action. First, the city council holds a town hall and asks for everybody's complaints regarding the rendering plant and smells. They also print the name and phone number of the city attorney and ask callers to forward their complaints there. After that, they begin issuing fines to the plant, which they disregard and, as far as I'm aware, never pay. Eventually, the city sues the rendering plant and the rendering plant countersues. I've updated my website after each development takes place. The last piece of news to come out of this whole situation was that each side had decided to drop their lawsuit around July of 2017, but with no agreement about the odor. I did not update the website to mention that the lawsuit had been dropped. It slipped my mind after reading it. The domain name is along the lines of $townigaplasitolive.com, and the first thing you see on the site is a big yellow block with huge text saying not YDT. It used to say no before the city started finding the rendering plant. Everything has been quiet for months now regarding this website and the odor. While the city dropped their lawsuit and I still consider the issue unresolved, the smelly days only spring up once or twice a month now. However, this afternoon I received a letter from a law firm representing the city. It contains screenshots of my website and screenshots of the GitHub repository proving that I'm the owner. The gist of the letter says, Our firm represents the city of Dollar Town. You're the author and domain name owner of Dollar Domain. We've attached proof. You are understandably frustrated by the issues with Dollar Rendering Plant which have been alleviated through litigation. However, you have not modified your website despite the progress made. In fact, you re-registered the domain name in 2017 rather than take it down. I had the domain set to auto-renew. To make matters worse, the website contains a recital that the town is still being polluted as of the date someone views the website. This leaves the impression that the information on the site is current. I am reliably informed that the Dollar Clinic lost a physician prospect who read your website. At present, the website libels the city of Dollar Town, interferes with recruitment of businesses and new residents, and negatively affects property values. That interference is likely your intention since you took the time to re-register the domain name. I'm writing to ask that you take down your site and not replace it with other derogatory material. If the website is not taken down within 10 days, your next notice will be in the form of a lawsuit. I'm inclined to disregard this letter as my admittedly naive understanding of the law says the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was created so citizens can criticize the government without fear of retribution. However, I realize there's a difference between federal, state, and municipal governments, and I'll be the first to admit there's a little bit of pride and defiance clouding my judgment too. Nobody is being disparaged on the website except for the city council as a whole. The only person's name mentioned is the name of the city attorney and their phone number, encouraging citizens to call and voice their complaints about the smells. The attorney and their phone number were being printed in local newspapers, asking readers to do the same. I do mention the name of the rendering plant with a picture of their factory, but the letter I received is from attorneys representing the city, not the business. I've scheduled a consultation with a lawyer, but is it a good idea to leave this site up and risk a lawsuit? Edit. I saw the lawyer this morning who agreed that it seems like this would be violating my First Amendment rights, and that it's not possible to libel or defame a city. However, he was unable to take the case as he's a real estate lawyer, which I knew going in, but my choice for law offices in town was the one I saw this morning or the one that sent the letter yesterday. He did give me 4 good recommendations for lawyers outside of town and specifically outside of my town's sphere of influence. I've got an appointment with one of these lawyers on Tuesday morning, and I've also contacted the Eclue location in Iowa as a few others have suggested. All in all, I'm feeling pretty confident that this letter is just an attempt at scaring me into taking the website down, though I worry that I'm slowly running out of the 10 days time they've given me to comply. Update. This is an update to, a few months ago, I posted here asking for advice after the city council of the town I live in sent a letter demanding that I take down a website critical of them, or else they'd sue me. Most of the comments I received confirmed that, yes, this was violating my First Amendment rights, and yes, I should seek a lawyer. So, I did so. I set up a meeting with one of the 2 law firms here in town. The other law firm is the one that sent the letter, and he agreed with what everybody else had been telling me. However, he declined to represent me as he's largely a real estate attorney, and recommended I speak with someone outside the city's little sphere of influence. Skipping over unnecessary details, I met with the other lawyer, but wasn't able to afford representation at the time. I updated my website to be fairer to the city itself, but risked leaving in a few barbs toward the city council and the lawyers representing them borrowing a few Reddit comments about squandered taxpayer money on spurious advice and pointless legal services. Once I updated the website and the city realized I wasn't going to take it down, a different attorney from the city's law firm contacted me and wanted to chat over coffee. I went, although now I realize I probably should not have done so. He was very friendly, telling me he thinks the whole situation had been badly handled, but he made it clear that he thought I should take down the website because it was hurting the town and we both want what's best for it. He also told me there was a reporter from a newspaper calling around trying to get in touch with me, and he didn't think I should talk to them again because it would damage the town. I declined the interview because I was afraid I'd get sued, whether justified or not, if I said something the city didn't like. Of course, I was too naive to realize that the city themselves would have no problem talking to the reporter. So, she ran her story, and I was made out to be the bad guy troublemaker by the city officials she interviewed. What's more, a city councilman, the mayor, and the city administrator all denied sending a letter to me. They were also quoted as saying there may be legal stuff coming down the road. A few weeks later, I received another letter from the law firm, and this one was weird. It was the attorney from the original letter writing on his own time to explain all the reasons he thinks he can sue me, citing several Iowa judicial cases and going on about disparaging property. He told me I was making a stupid argument and attributing unfounded legal arguments to him. The letter ended by saying it wasn't a threat of litigation and not intended to deter me from exercising my legal rights. This was around mid-January 2018. I received the first letter mid-December 2017. Everything was quiet, once again, for 2 more weeks, until I got an email from the legal director at the HOA of Iowa. On the advice of Reddit, I had emailed both the HOA and the EFF, but after over a month with no response, I had figured they were too busy to look at my case. I was very happy when she contacted me and wanted to talk. I spoke with the director, and, long story short, she thought what the city was doing to me was an egregious violation of my civil rights, and the HOA of Iowa wanted to represent me in a lawsuit against the city. Toward the end of February, we filed suit in federal court, and by March 29, we settled the case after the city agreed to these 5 terms. 1. They had to agree to a permanent injunction where they can't threaten to sue me or actually sue me for any website or content I produce regarding the town. 2. They must pay legal damages to me. 3. They must pay attorney fees to the HOA. 4. They must write an apology letter to me. 5. My favorite part, the city's staff and its attorneys must take First Amendment training. All in all, I'm incredibly impressed with the HOA's work on this case. I know it's not typical to file a lawsuit and win a month later, but I think just shows how blatant their attempts to censor me were. I'm super grateful to the HOA for helping me with this, because as I said above, I wouldn't have been able to afford an attorney and the city would have gotten away with their threat. I'm also grateful to r/Legaladvice for encouraging me to contact the HOA. Thank you for all of the help. Thanks for listening.